The one question I get asked the most here on YouTube is, what guitar am I playing? So in about 90% of my videos, I'm playing this guitar. And this is a Flamenco Negra guitar by Pavan Guitars in New York. Guitar maker named Tom Prislow. He has these guitars made in Spain, and you can choose the wood that you want and whatever. But what I want to do in this video is tell you a little bit about this guitar, but also unveil the new guitar that he sent me, which is a Flamenco Blanca. And we can talk about what the difference is between those two types of flamenco guitars and see what this new guitar that's still in the box sounds like. If you're playing nylon string guitar, you're probably playing a standard classical guitar, and that's totally fine. You can play anything you want on that classical guitar. A flamenco guitar really isn't that much different. It's just maybe the wood and sometimes the thickness of the body and how it sounds. Generally speaking, a classical guitar is going to sound more full, more complete, maybe more smooth and mellow, perhaps. A flamenco guitar might have a little more bite to it, and that's what I like more than a classical. But again, you can play classical guitar on a flamenco guitar or flamenco on a classical. So I've had this guitar for maybe 17 years now, or perhaps more than that. It's my main gigging guitar, and I asked for this cutaway because a lot of times when I'm playing a gig, especially when I'm playing with a looper, I want to get up to a high position here, and the cutaway just helps you do that. Some people argue that that takes some of the tone or volume away from the guitar. I don't really think that's true. Certainly if you're amplifying yourself anyway, that doesn't really matter. Although it does have a more modern look, I guess you could say. I do prefer the classic look of a non-cutaway guitar, but just for practical reasons, I think the cutaway is cool. And this new Blanca guitar that they made for me is based on the specifications of this guitar I chose way back when, exactly the scale length that I wanted and the nut width and all that stuff. So this guitar is going to be the same, just going to be a Blanca rather than a Negra. The idea with a Flamenco Negra guitar is it's going to give us the bite, let's hope, the rattliness, the nastiness, I like to call it, of a flamenco guitar, but still have a little bit of that full sound that we might expect in a classical guitar, and it's kind of a nice blend of the two. That's why I use this one all the time. I'm not even sure of I'm so dumb about woods when it comes to guitar. Like I'm gonna tell you what this is made of in the next one, but I'm gonna forget it in probably 2 days. And what is it that makes a flamenco guitar sound more nasty and rattly? I have no idea. Tell me in the comments. But I just like to play guitars. I don't know that much about them. But I don't want you to hear how this one sounds. By the way, these strings are so old. I should have changed these probably 2 months ago. So that is gonna affect what we're hearing here. But keep in mind that if you get a new guitar, not just one that you bought at a store, but an actual new guitar that was just made, it's not going to sound awesome right off the bat. So I want to hear how this one sounds. But when I first got this guitar, those many years ago, I liked the way that it sounded, but it did have a kind of a boxy, closed-in kind of sound to it. But over the years, and they say, you know, the wood dries out and ages, whatever, it's kind of like a fine wine, and it starts to sound better, and that has absolutely been the case with this guitar. It sounds much more warmer, I guess, is the word, or I don't know what. Maybe it mellowed out or something, but then when it comes to flamenco guitars, we don't really want it to sound mellow, right? I do have, this is my own fault, but I have a pickup that I put in this guitar. Originally, it was a LR Baggs pickup from way back when. And then, at the suggestion of Jason McGuire, really great flamenco guitarist here in California, he came to my lesson studio a few years ago and did a flamenco guitar workshop for us. And he suggested putting in a mini flex. This is a 2-mic gooseneck that's inside the guitar. You can move the mics around. And now when I play into my pedal board, I take these 2 outputs and mix it down into a little tiny mixer. So I have one output and I can go into my pedals. But only reason I bring that up is that when I did that, when I put in this microphone here, something happened to the guitar where I have a buzz now here that nobody can figure out. Like a team of scientists working around the clock cannot figure out why this thing buzzes. So I did that to myself, or did it to the guitar. So I can't really blame Pavan Guitars on that. And that's one thing that bugs me a lot. Nothing I can do about that. This new guitar won't have that, but just be careful when you're putting pickups in your guitar. But it's an expensive guitar, and these are actually not that expensive. It's super affordable. By the way, I have no affiliate deal with Pavan Guitars. I'm not getting paid for this video, although I did get a free guitar from them. Just be careful though when you put pickups in your guitar. If you have a really expensive guitar, if you have a $10,000 guitar, I would never put a pickup in that because you may ruin the resale value on it because you just drilled a hole in the guitar. But actually, when it comes to amplifying the guitar, you can have a guitar that's cheap. You could have a $300 guitar that sounds great plugged in, and then a very expensive guitar that when you put a pickup in and you plug it in, it sounds horrible and way worse than a cheap one. So that you got to absolutely keep that in mind, and maybe it's a good idea if you're a gigging musician or you're just getting into that to get a cheap guitar and plug that in. Actually, one of my cheapest guitars sounds the best plugged in, which is a little bit infuriating, but That's just the way it is. So this Negra guitar is made of solid East Indian rosewood for the sides, and the top is made of cedar. This new Blanca is going to be made of different wood. Let's take it out of the box, open it up, see what it sounds like. Caveat, I dropped this down the stairs right when I got it, this whole box. I hope it's in one piece. Oh, ow. Oh yeah. Ooh. So nice and unblemished. It's out of tune. All right, so I tuned it up. I might go out of tune here again in a second, but you can already see off the bat it's much brighter looking in the sides too. So on my Negra over here, that East Indian rosewood, obviously dark, and then over here we have cypress sides and a spruce top, and so that's what makes it sound brighter. And so right off the bat I can hear this. It sounds more crisp sounding, you could say. We'll do more of an A/B test in a second. But where those, that brittleness or that bite of a flamenco guitar really, you can hear it when you do these raw scales. Or maybe some thumb rest strokes. So this definitely has that. Now I do hear some of that boxiness that I was talking about, but it's a brand new guitar, so that's to be expected. It's like pants, you gotta break them in. And you can't break it in by just letting it sit in your closet. You gotta play it and let all those vibrations and happen, whatever magical stuff happens when you play. One thing I don't like about this is that the action is a little bit too high, but I've never had a guitar that I didn't, even a brand new guitar, and even an expensive guitar, that I didn't immediately take to a luthier and have them lower the action. So I like to have the action as low as you can get it without buzzing. It's just easier to play that way, and we have enough problems with barring and pain that we might get from playing. So if we can minimize that, that's good. Now, speaking though of the difference between flamenco and classical guitarists or guitars, the classical guitarist, certainly a concert classical guitarist, is going to have a classical guitar with probably higher action, just more sustain and more volume. And flamenco guitars are generally going to have lower action. You can almost hear it like in an old Sabika's album or something. You can almost hear how close the strings are to the fret. That's the impression I get anyway. So let's try a big fat rasgueado on this one. And then try the same thing over here on the Negra. Same chord. Definitely sounds deeper, right? It sounds more mellow, and that might be just because it's older too, right? This time I'm just going to play one chord. I will toggle between this old guitar and the new one. So when we're doing that heavy strumming and really whacking the guitar as loud as we can, sounds really good and appropriate that way. But if we wanted to play a classical piece, it might sound a little bit too thin. Still sounds good though. Now I already do have a Blanca guitar that I got at Solera Flamenca Guitars. That's a shop that's in Barcelona, I believe. But they had a shop out in Hollywood for a few years, and I went and bought this baby. So this one's nice and aged. I got the action low, but it definitely has a thinner sound to it, and I like that for certain things. This is made by Jose Gonzalez Lopez in Granada. This is a very, very nice one. I have no idea what the wood is. You can tell me probably just by looking at it. But like I said, after filming this video, I'm going to forget what wood these are all made of because I just have no mind for wood. So now I've got two flamenco guitars from Pavan Guitars, a Negra and a Blanca. I definitely like this one better already because it doesn't have that buzz that I made happen on this one. Which one do you think sounds better? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.